We are covering 9-3. This is the last lesson before you guys take your quiz on Monday. So we have Wednesday review. Well, Wednesday I'm going to go over all the homework. Thursday, Friday, you're going to have review for this, for your quiz. Your quiz is 6 questions because I just made it. 6 questions, and obviously with partial credit you get the work when you show your work. You don't necessarily need your calculator for this. You don't need a calculator for this quiz. So if you don't have one by then, that's fine because all your answers need to be simplified radicals, not decimals. So there's really no need for calculators for this lesson because it's basic math. It's just simple math. Whether you're adding or subtracting or multiplying, that's really it. That's all you need. All right, 9-3. We're covering similar triangles, similar right triangles. So some of you see this word and you freak out about it. It's altitude. Altitude just means when you have a right triangle, for these examples, it's that perpendicular line that's from the corner, the vertice, to your hypotenuse, and it makes a perpendicular line. That's all that the altitude is. Okay, the altitude is drawn to the hypotenuse of the right triangle. Here is your hypotenuse. Then the two triangles are similar to the original triangle. So looking here, you have a total of 3 triangles. When you're looking at a question like this, you have the original triangle, and just make sure that your original triangle must be a right triangle. So when you're looking at this, you have 3 triangles. You have your original triangle, your smallest triangle, and your medium triangle. So I'm going to highlight them so you can see them. Here's my original triangle. Here's my medium triangle in red. And then this is my small triangle in blue. So you have 3 triangles here. Key thing is that they're similar. My triangles are similar to the original. They form a similar triangle. So I can write my similarity statement 3 different times. I have my original triangle BCA is similar to triangle BAD, which is also similar to triangle ACD. And yes, you have to specifically write them in order to where your angles are the same. Your angles are congruent. So looking at this, if you're getting lost on how I'm writing it, okay, if you're like, oh, why are you putting your B there? Why are you putting your A there? Looking at the next example, it's just asking to identify the similar triangles. If it helps, which most of the time it does, draw the triangles out. So here's my original triangle. I'm going to use the highlighter again. This is my original triangle, and I'm going to draw that one out. Again, these are all right triangles. So here's my original triangle. STR. That's my original triangle. Now I have my medium triangle in blue. And again, I'm going to draw that one out as well. Here's the right angle for my medium triangle. And I have TUR. And then my smallest triangle right here in green. And again, here is the right angle for my medium triangle. And this is going to be SUT. So if I'm writing my similarity statement, it's going to be triangle STR is similar to triangle TUR, which is similar to triangle SUT. So if it helps to draw the triangles out to write your similarity statement, draw the triangles out so you're not getting lost on what goes where, because these are specific ways that you can write them. It's not just write whatever you want, you have to specifically write it in a certain way. All right, geometric mean. So you will get questions like this on your quiz. Find the mean of the numbers, the geometric mean. So we're solving these. It's nothing new. We're still solving them the same way how we solve proportions. So looking at this first one, if I have a over x equals to x over b, how would I solve this? What do I have to do? What do you think I would have to do? What is it? All you have to do is cross multiply. So cross multiplying these, I have my x's and I have my a and my b. I'm gonna have, let me write it down, x squared equals ab. Okay, look at how I have it here. But how do I get rid of a squared? Square root it, and then left over I would have x equals the square root of a times b, and that's what I'm going to be using. Keep in mind the a next to the b means multiplication. I'm going to be multiplying them. So x is my geometric mean. When you're given two numbers, square root their product. Product again means to multiply. So we're going to go ahead and look at the example on the next page, and we're going to solve them. So it says find the geometric mean of the given numbers. You will get a question like this on your quiz and obviously definitely on your test. X is going to equal the square root of 4 times 20. Either you could write it this way, or you can write it as most of the students have liked writing it separate, 4 times the square root of 20. And then are any of these perfect roots? Yes, which one? 4 is going to give me a 2. And then I need to simplify my 20. What am I going to simplify it to? Okay, radical 4, radical 5. Are any of those perfect roots? Yeah, my 4 is. Can I simplify my 5? No. So right now I'm going to have 2 times 2 radical 5. And I could solve 2 times 2. X is going to equal 4 radical 5, and I'm done. Go ahead and try B on your own. Solving this one, you have x equals radical 9 times the square root of 25. Are any of these perfect roots? Yes, both of them are. So I'm going to have 3 times 5. If you left it like that, you cannot leave it like that. X is going to equal, you have to multiply them. And your answer should have been 15. Questions on these? This is probably the easiest part of the notes today. All right, geometric mean using altitude theorem. When you are solving this, your triangle, your altitude is separating your triangle into two segments. Keep in mind the segments are on the hypotenuse. Okay, so in a right triangle, the altitude of the right angle to the hypotenuse divides the hypotenuse into two segments. Where are my two segments? Segment 1, segment 2. If you have to solve for any one of these three things here, you have to plug it in to this formula, this rule, whatever you want to call it. So please be aware of what is going where. You have your segment 1. Here is segment 1. Over your altitude. This piece is your altitude. We should know what altitude is. By now it's that 90-degree line that cuts my triangle into two segments. Okay, so segment 1 over your altitude equals your altitude over segment 2. And when we get to examples, you're going to have to remember quite a few of these. It's really only 3. This one and there's 2 more. But after we explain it, you could only think of it as 2 instead of 3. All right, let's go ahead and look at the next theorem. All right, theorem 9.8, geometric mean, which is the leg theorem. Please don't get these two confused. when you're looking for the altitude, you need your two segments. But now they're asking for a leg. So where are my legs? Please understand where your legs are. I'm going to highlight, here are my segments. We used my segments before. I have A and I have B. But we're also going to use the entire measure of the hypotenuse. Okay, and that's going to be C. How you're finding your hypotenuse, you're just adding A plus B. And that's going to give you your measure for your bottom part, which is going to be your C. Okay, then you have your two legs. Here's your X. And then here's your Y. So when you are solving this, you are always using your hypotenuse. Your hypotenuse is always going to go there. Depending on which triangle you're solving, and when I say which triangle, I mean either you're solving for this triangle over here, or you're solving for this triangle over here. I'm going to highlight it using two colors so you understand what I'm talking about. So your leg can either be your leg in blue or your leg in purple. So either you're writing A or B. Okay, when we get to the examples, I'll show you what I mean when I'm saying either A or B. And you're putting it over the segment of the hypotenuse that's adjacent to the leg. What does that mean? Adjacent means next to. So if I were to solve for X on this side, if I were to solve for my X on this side, you would put your A here, not your B, because you're only solving for this triangle. So if I were to solve for my A or something like that, depending on the side again, I know this sounds super confusing, but once we get to the examples, it'll be a little more easier. But looking at what they're giving me, this is the most important thing right here. So if you're solving it, your hypotenuse is always going to go on the top. And if you're solving for A, you're going to put your X values and then your A. But if you're solving for B, you're going to use your Y values. So it's a lot of highlighting, a lot of A, B, C's. But once we get to the examples, hopefully it'll clarify it because there's quite a few examples on here. All right, looking at example number 3. First thing I want you to do is label what they're giving you. JR is 16, EJ is 9. The first thing that I'm able to find here, the easiest thing I can find, is my hypotenuse. How would I find my hypotenuse? Good, 9 plus 16, and what would I get? 25. So ER, or RE, is 25. That's the easiest thing. Next easiest thing. I'm going to try and find my altitude. Why am I going to find my altitude? Because they're already giving me both segments. So you have to remember the rule or the formula or whatever you want to call it for this one. I'm going to write it down. It's segment 1 over your altitude equals your altitude over segment 2. So what is considered segment 1? What am I using for segment 1? Anybody? What am I using for segment 1? I have 2 segments. The only 2 segments that are written there. They're giving me my segments. What am I using for segment 1? What is it? Somebody said it. EJ, which is what? It's 9. So I'm going to have 9 over, do I know what my altitude is? No. I'm going to write my altitude as X equals X over what's segment 2? Good. All I have to do now is write it out. X squared equals 9 times 16. Or sorry, the square root of 9 times the square root of 16 because I'm trying to get rid of that square. Are any of these perfect roots? Yes. Yes. What would 9 be? And what would 16 be? And what do I have to do with those two numbers? Multiply them. And what's 3 times 4? 12. So my altitude is 12. JH or HJ is 12. Now I have to try and solve for my two sides. So I'll do HE first. Formula for HE, formula for any of my legs is going to be your hypotenuse over, depending on what we're finding. I am trying to find something for this piece, this triangle. So I'm going to set it to x. I'm going to call this my x. Hypotenuse over x equals x over my adjacent side, which is EJ for this scenario. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and plug everything in. What's my hypotenuse?
EJ or EH?
EJ, because I'm trying to find EH. That's what my x is. So what's my hypotenuse? So I'm going to have 25 over, I don't know because that's what I'm trying to find, over EJ, which is 9. Now I have to solve it. I'm going to have x squared equals 9 times 25. Get rid of this squared. Are any of these perfect roots? Both of them. What's the square root of 9? And what's the square root of 25? And what do I have to do with them? Multiply them. And what would I get? 15. So this side is going to be 15. EH or HE is 15. Now I have to do my last remaining side, HR. So I'm still doing something similar. I'm still using 25 over x because I'm trying to find that leg. And I'm still writing as x over, instead of writing 9, what do you think I'm going to write it over? 16 because I'm using a different triangle. So it's not that it's a confusing formula to use, but you just have to remember which ones you're solving for. So setting it up the same way, I'm going to have x squared equals 25 times 16. Get rid of that squared. Are any of these perfect roots? Good. I'm going to get 5, and I'm going to get 4. What do I have to do with them? And what am I going to get?
X equals y equals 20.
Yeah, x, y, I'm going to get 20. So I solved all of it. So it's not that it's hard. It is a lot of work to solve for.
Are we going to have like an extra paper to do work, or will it be enough paper?
There's on the quiz, it's only 6 questions, and I'm making it front and back, so you have more than enough space to do all the work on there. All right, any questions on this? I want you guys to try B on your own. So go ahead and go to the next page and answer the bottom question that I marked out here. Go to this slide and go ahead and solve the bottom one on your own. I'm going to give you guys some time. First thing you had to solve was EJ, but before that you should have plugged everything in. JR is 4, JH is 2. EJ, when you were solving for a segment and you have an altitude and your second segment, you are plugging it in. Segment 1 over your altitude equals your altitude over segment 2. Do I know what segment 1 is? Yes or no? No, I do not, so I'm representing that as x. Do I know what my altitude is? Yes, what is it? 2, okay, I have half of it. Do I know what my altitude is? We said yes, it was 2. And do I know what segment 2 is? What is it? 4. Same thing as we've been solving. Cross multiply. Cross multiplying, what's 4 times x? 4x. And what's 2 times 2? 4. If I divide both sides by 4, x equals 1. If you did not get 1 for EJ, all your answers are going to be wrong. Next, I'm going to go ahead and find my hypotenuse. What is my hypotenuse? 5. You're just adding them together. Now I solve for RE. Now I'm going to go ahead and solve for RH. This line right here. I'm going to take my hypotenuse over I don't know what that measurement is yet. I don't know what my leg is. Equals my leg over the adjacent side. And what is my adjacent side? 4. Okay, look at this as one triangle. The adjacent side is 4. So, solving it, cross multiplying. What's 4 times 4? 4 squared. And then I have 5 times 4. How do I get rid of that square, the squared? Square root it. Are any of these perfect squares? Or perfect roots?
Yes.
4 is. I'm going to take a 2 out of there. Can I simplify? That's 5 square root, the square root of 5? No. So x is going to equal, for this side, 2 radical 5. So 2 radical 5. And my last one, HE, I have my hypotenuse over, I don't know what my leg is, equals my leg over 1. Cross multiply. X squared equals 5 times 1. Get rid of that squared. X is going to equal the square root of 5. Can I simplify that? And I'm done. You guys will have a question like this on your test, on your quiz. So you need to make sure you know how to solve for all of these.